Really a magnificent story by you. I've gotten a sneak peek of it, and we're so happy to have you on lunch break. What is it like? What is it about Andy Murray that he just can't bring it home in a Grand Slam?
It's tough to say. I think that's the tricky part, is he's trying to figure out exactly what it is and what he's done. And since December, he's been working with Ivan Lendl, who used to have similar problems when he was a top pro. He used to lose a lot of finals, lost his first 4 Grand Slam finals, and then he ended up winning 8 in his career. And the hope is that he can help him sort of overcome, whether it's a mental, physical barrier, anything that it is, to get him that last extra couple inches.
Let's talk about the killer instinct, right? Because this is, like people say, so important in tennis. And that coach, he had the killer instinct, I think, growing up when he was learning to play. How does that manifest itself in someone like Andy Murray? Does he have it? Can he be taught that killer instinct?
I think he is that way. I mean, you don't find many guys who hate to lose as much as Andy Murray. He definitely has that down. He grew up with an older brother who was always a lot better than him until they were, in their teens, and I think that sort of instills that in you. But he's just up against such talented guys now, and this era in men's tennis is maybe one of the best ever. There's 3 players, in Djokovic, Federer, and Nadal, who are maybe would be unbeatable at any different time in their career. And to have 3 of those guys in front of you, you have to beat 2 of them probably to win a Grand Slam.
He's 25?
He'll be 25 this year.
So he's not old by tennis standards, but he's not super young either. Where does that put him in the mix of those other greats that you just mentioned?
Well, it starts to add pressure because those players, Nadal and Djokovic, are around the same age and they've already won a lot of titles. Federer had a lot of titles at that age. This is your prime year.
Prime year. This is
certainly from now until about 28 or so. So it really amps up the pressure for the next 2-3 seasons.
Now, what does the coach have him doing to sort of get him to this next level, to get him to the point where he can win a Grand Slam? We know that Andy Murray is already sort of a workhorse, a workaholic. He works himself out. What other things can he be doing to sort of take this next leap? I mean, he's known for the backhand and more than his forehand.
Amazing backhand, amazing footwork, speed, great returner serve. Tactically known as very well. Lendl was a very good tactician, so I'm sure they're talking about that a bunch. And I think with Lendl too, a lot of it is it's sort of like being a psychologist or psychiatrist, excuse me. I mean, it's sort of how does it feel when you're on this bigger stage playing this player rather than at a smaller tournament, because he's beaten all of them at the smaller tournaments. It's a matter of how do you push through in a 5-set match and not have heavy legs or break down.
Now, you spoke to him, obviously.
Yes.
So when you were talking to him, how did he, in his own words, explain to you, Tom, like what it feels like to get to that point and then just not be able to bring it home? I mean, the sort of heavy leg syndrome, that type of thing.
I mean, I think the funny thing with him is in years past it had been sort of devastating. He went into a little bit of funk last year at the end of the Australian Open when he lost the final because I think it took a lot out of him to play so, not up to his level. This year, when he lost in the semifinals in 5 sets, he actually was much more positive when I spoke to him in Indian Wells. Very positive. Felt like he was really close this time and that he understood what to do to get there. And I mean, that's encouraging to see because he hasn't always responded that way after a defeat. I think maybe Lendl is helping him with that, and he just had a lot more fight in him and really moved well in that match.
Do you not think, though, in tennis there gets to be this sort of mystique that, Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, that they are just absolutely unbeatable, and then that sort of theme grows larger and larger till it just hangs over the court while he's playing?
It definitely happens in tennis. A one-on-one sport, huge mental challenge. Old-time players used to say that the #1 player would get a set for free because they were the #1 player.
Right.
But I think the hopeful part of it for Murray is that Djokovic was in this position a few years ago and really wasn't winning at slams, and now all of a sudden he's won the last 3 and he looks almost unbeatable. So you can turn it around. It just sometimes takes a little luck.
Now, when you get a new coach in tennis, this is a very personal decision that you're making because in this sport it's very one-on-one. It's a lot of time you spend just sort of solo. You don't have a lot of other guys on the field with you. It's you and that coach, and it's a new relationship. What is that like, getting a new coach, and how big of a decision is it for a tennis player?
Huge decision, and not one he took lightly in this case. And they worked out a bit. A lot of it, he has other people in his team too, a physical therapist, a trainer, hitting partners. So this new person, you want them to get along with those people too. You don't want infighting. And he also works out with some coaches from Adidas sometimes. So the entourages in tennis have gotten bigger. I think that's become a tougher decision, harder to manage, because there's so many people around players now keeping them in shape.
And how does a coach who obviously is still a very good player but is not in his prime anymore, he's up there trying to coach someone like Andy Murray, who's just like so powerful. I mean, does he have to adjust where he stands and how he coaches him just physically on the court?
Lendl doesn't hit with him.
He does not hit with him.
That's what he told me, no. He says his ball's too slow and it wouldn't be any good for Andy. for him to hit with him. So he stands behind him or around him and talks about strategy, but he doesn't find any point in actually hitting with him.
No point, not at all.
No, he has hitting partners do it.
And so what's the next test we'll see? When will we see Andy Murray be playing next?
His first match will be on Friday.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yep,
Yeah.
at the Sony Ericsson Open in Miami. It's a very big tournament, and then from there, clay court season starts, and then the French Open.
So we'll be sort of seeing how this new coaching is paying off for him.
Yep.